Okay, so imagine this. You've got a huge exam or a massive job interview tomorrow. Would you ever walk in and crack open a beer right before? Of course not, right? Well, here's the wild part. If you pulled an all-nighter to get ready, your brain is already in that exact same state. Let's get into the science of why that is. The science on this is just incredibly clear. Being awake for one full 24-hour cycle impairs your cognitive function just as much as having a blood alcohol level of 0.10%. To be clear, that is well over the legal driving limit pretty much everywhere in the world. So, for the next few minutes, we are going to dive deep into this illegal state of your brain. We're going to find out why it starts to glitch, how your neurons literally begin to misfire, and we'll uncover the genuinely terrifying link between a single sleepless night and Alzheimer's disease. So, how does this even happen? How can you feel drunk without a single drop of alcohol? Well, it all boils down to one specific chemical that just relentlessly builds up in your brain, creating what scientists call cognitive drunkenness. That chemical is called adenosine, and from the very moment you wake up, it starts to build. The longer you're awake, the more of it you get. The best way to think about it is like a rising tide of sleep pressure that's constantly pushing down on your brain. But here's where it gets really interesting. After about 24 hours, it's not just that the sleep pressure is high. Your brain's receptors actually become hypersensitive to it. It's a process called upregulation, and it's like your brain is literally turning up the volume on its own exhaustion. And this is where the trouble really starts. That intense sensitivity to adenosine starts to dim the lights on the most important parts of your brain. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your mind that handles all the planning and good judgment, it just starts to go offline. At this point, you're not just tired, you are becoming biologically incapable of making smart, safe choices. And this has some terrifying real-world consequences. A study on driving found that people who are sleep-deprived took way more risks on the road, not because they were suddenly daredevils, but because their brains literally could not calculate the danger anymore. It's a chilling thought. But it doesn't stop there, because this is where things go from bad to just plain weird. When your brain gets this desperate for rest, it doesn't just slow down. It actually starts to glitch and malfunction in a very specific, kind of bizarre way. So, to get the glitch, you first have to know about something called cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. You can think of it as your brain's personal janitor. Its whole job is to pulse through your brain and wash away all the toxic gunk that builds up during the day. But here's the crucial part. This cleaning is only supposed to happen when you're asleep. Normally, it's a perfect system, right? You fall into a deep sleep, the CSF waves start their power wash cycle, and all that dangerous junk gets flushed out. You wake up with a clean brain, ready for the next day. Simple. But what happens when you don't go to sleep? Well, your brain gets desperate. That toxic waste is piling up, and your brain basically decides it can't wait any longer. So it tries to run the cleaning cycle anyway, while the lights are still on. And this is the glitch. A really cool MIT study found that these cleaning waves of CSF literally start leaking into your conscious brain. And every time one of these fluid waves pulses through, it causes total attentional failure. So when you think you're just spacing out, what's really happening is your brain is trying to power wash itself while the engine is still running. Now, this force cleaning cycle doesn't just cause you to zone out. It's also really inefficient. And the consequences of that unfinished job aren't just temporary. They are potentially permanent, which leads us directly to one of the most feared diseases on the planet. So one of the main toxic things the CSF is supposed to be cleaning out is a protein called beta amyloid. And if that name rings a bell, it absolutely should. The buildup of beta amyloid plaques is the #1 physical sign of Alzheimer's disease. So how quickly does this damage start to happen? This is the most shocking part. Researchers at Harvard discovered that it takes just one night, a single all-nighter, to cause a measurable, significant increase of these toxic proteins right in the hippocampus, your brain's memory center. One night. Now, okay, one night of good sleep can help clear some of this backlog, but the real danger is in the habit. When you're chronically sleep deprived, pulling all-nighters all the time, you create what's called a neurotoxic environment. You're basically just letting this poison build up night after night until your brain just can't clean up the mess anymore. So what happens if you just ignore all these warning signs and push even further past that 24-hour mark? Well, the cognitive drunkenness and the brain glitches, that's just the beginning. The cost of staying awake goes up, and believe me, it goes up fast. At 36 hours, you'll start having microsleeps. These are tiny, uncontrollable bursts of sleep you won't even realize are happening. By 48 hours, you can start to feel detached from your own body, a really scary state called depersonalization. And if you push to 72 hours, your perception of reality itself can actually fracture, leading to hallucinations and a state that's very similar to acute psychosis. So here's the bottom line, the most crucial point. There are no shortcuts. You cannot cheat sleep and get away with it. The debt always comes due. For every single 24-hour period you stay awake, your body needs more than 48 hours of recovery sleep just to get back to normal. So let's just bring it all together. An all-nighter isn't some badge of honor for hard work. It is, plain and simple, a form of biological self-sabotage. You are forcing your brain to work while it's in a state equivalent to being legally drunk, and you are actively letting toxic proteins linked to dementia build up inside it. Which really just leaves us with one final personal question. Knowing that you're impairing your judgment, glitching your focus, and potentially contributing to long-term permanent brain damage, is pulling that next all-nighter really, truly worth the risk?